Welcome
to the joy of coding.
Hello, and welcome to episode 418 of The Joy of Coding. My name is Mike Conley. It's so good to have you here. Happy early Halloween, if that's the thing that you celebrate. That's why I'm doing the skull thing. It's been a little while. I hope you're well. Gonna be live hacking on some Firefox stuff today. Ooh, here's a bat. Ah! Yeah, that's the Halloween edition of The Joy of Coding. I hope you're well. It's been a little while. I haven't been live streaming. I've been traveling. I've been unable to stream, but I'm back now. Let's get into it. What is going on? Punch out of a hole. I just had a thing I needed to write down. But let's start by sharing my screen. Hey, it's October 29th, 2025, episode 418. A reminder, no plan survives breakfast. I think I know how today's going to go. I think I know roughly what I want to cover. I didn't. Whenever I posted to Mastodon earlier today, I was like, any number of things could happen today, but I came up with some stuff that I think would be useful and interesting to do today during the live stream. I think I can fit it within the hour and a half. And that there you go. But like things might get completely sidetracked. We might get stuck. It might not fit within the full hour and a half. We might have to bail out. That's okay. That's part of this. You know, none of this has been really pre-structured or pre-planned beyond just sort of a vague outline in my head. So if things go sideways, you just get to watch me dance out of that. The second thing is that the agenda that we're looking at here with the handy dandy links is something that you have access to. It's going to be a link to it is going to be a different place depending on where you're watching the stream. If you're watching this on YouTube, check out the video description. If you're watching this on Twitch, check out the channel details. And if you're watching this on Air Mozilla, it's over there in the video details section. You should have a link. So yeah, sorry for the delays. I have not streamed since October 1st. That's almost a month. So that's another reason why the skull is here. It's like, oh, when was the last time I streamed? Maybe I'll just wait. But I'm back. But I do have some other travel coming up. So I'll be able to stream next week as well. But the following week, I will not be able to because I will be traveling again. This is that fun time of year. What we, I don't know if it's called this in other shops, so it's fall planning season. Planning for 2026. Trying to coordinate with other teams on what's going on, and so that means a lot of meeting and planning and traveling in my case. So I'm going to be traveling again. So I'll be able to stream next week, but not the week after. Today is episode 418. We get to look at one of my favorite HTTP error codes in commemoration of this episode. Let's look at the image first. You might know this. This is Keanu. I don't know what film this is from. He's wearing black, but I don't think it's one of the Matrix films because I don't think he had a beard in any of the original trilogy, and he looks too young for the most recent Matrix movie here. So I don't know what this is from, but he's next to a teapot, and there's a reason for that because HTTP code 418, error code 418 is I'm a teapot. If you didn't know about this one. This is just, the web can be a silly place, and this is one. So every now and then, you may get an HTTP error code coming back of 418 saying you're a teapot. Means that the status response error code indicates that the server refuses to brew coffee because it is permanently a teapot. A combined coffee teapot that is temporarily out of coffee should instead return 503, which is service unavailable. This error is in reference to Hypertext Coffee Pot Control Protocol defined in an April Fool's joke in 1998 and 2014. It was originally defined in an RFC as an April Fool's joke. The status code was formally reserved in RFC 9110 due to its wide deployment as a joke, so it cannot be assigned any non-joke semantics for the foreseeable future. So this is a joke HTTP error code. It's built into the structure of HTTP and the web at large. Some websites use this response for requests they do not wish to handle, such as automated queries. So yeah, you can just have your server be like, hey, hold up, I'm a teapot. And I believe there are some like web-connected HTTP web-connected teapots that actually will return this error code I believe that's true. So there you go. I'm a teapot. Moving on from that that wonderful little segue, I wanted to show you something that's kind of neat. This is only available in Nightly, and it's very early days still. So don't start freaking out and telling everyone in the world that this thing is how it's going to ship, because there's still lots of bugs and problems with it. But it is a thing that is available. If you can turn it on in Nightly. Split view. So some of you might already know what this is. Let me first of all share the preference that you can flip if you want to try it out. That's browser tab split view enabled. If you set that to true in Nightly, then you can select here. Let's choose a different I'm a teapot HTTP. Let's choose a different page here, the Hypertext Coffee Pot Control Protocol Wikipedia page. What I'm going to do, so it is possible to like group these tabs. If you select them, you can like add them to a group, or you can open them in a split view. This is new when you flip that pref. And then you get this situation where you've got tabs kind of lined up side by side. Now, I know if you're a Linux purist, or maybe a software purist, you're like, wait a second, you're stealing this capability, or you hey web browser, you're doing this thing that my tiling window manager should do this. Well, guess what? You're not everyone has a tiling window manager, and you don't have to use this feature if you don't want to. And sometimes the whole philosophy of do one thing and one thing well makes no sense when you are a web browser, because one of the things a web browser does is it's a runtime. It does lots of stuff. It's like saying an operating system should do one thing and one thing well, when in fact an operating system can do lots of things. Just 1 second. I'm hearing some noises from upstairs. We are dog sitting. I want to make sure the dog's okay. 1 second. Okay, I'm just hearing a lot of shenanigans. I'm gonna close this door. All right, let me back. All is well. All right. So anyways, what we have here is a split view between these two tabs that I had selected. And if you notice in the tab selection here, or the tab strip, the vertical one, and I believe it's the same kind of representation in the horizontal tab strip variant, you've got this kind of like split case. Oh, I accidentally closed the tab. This is going to be an interesting, what happens if I unclose the tab, it's unsplit. So I had to accidentally click the close button there. But like, you can switch back and forth between the focus of the tab. Like, one of these is selected at a time. You can see the sort of the focus outline here is telling you, the user, like which one is being represented by the URL bar and the toolbar icons. So like right now, if I were to use my share button, it's going to create a share. Well, that's a bad example, but if like I clicked on the bookmark button, it's referring to this side. And then if I focused this one and I clicked bookmark, it's referring to this one over here. Like that's how that works. And you can sort of see that representation as well. You can switch back and forth with them by selecting within the tab. And then you can unsplit them. If you like right click, you can separate the split view and they become two distinct tabs again. So I have found this very helpful actually when reviewing patches, because sometimes I'll have like Searchfox or something open on one side, then I'll have the patch that I'm reviewing on the other, and that's very, very handy. So if that's a thing you want to try, if you want to give it a shot, again, it's not perfect. Like one thing, there's at least one thing I know that's still being worked on, which is the status bar doesn't. I think for like certain things, the status bar doesn't work correctly. Like, look at this. I'm hovering this link, but it's over on the wrong side. And then, yeah, I think that's one of the things is like the status indicator doesn't always work correctly. So that's something that's being worked on. And I think there's some accessibility issues here that are also still being worked on. But the general sort of use case is available. And you can also like change the size of the split as well. You can like, if you want to like really kind of like deep dive into this or really deep dive into this while having this as a reference over here, that's handy. So yeah, there you go. And so I'm going to unsplit these again. And if that's, again, a thing you want to try, this is the pref. Browser tab split view enabled. Looks like the status indicator is popping up in the focus tab at the moment. Yeah, maybe that's the bug. Is that the... Well, there was another bug. I don't know if you noticed that one, but like this one hadn't fully stretched out. So let's see if I select this one. Yeah, you're right. That is where the status bar is showing up. And I don't think that's exactly user expectation. And now I'm going to split this. And then, yeah, like this is a bug here where like this is obviously broken. And now if I reload this, I think this tab is just hosed now. Like the content area is stuck. So it's not perfect. There are still some bugs that are being worked on. This is very early days. Please do not judge it. Please do not consider that a finished product. We wouldn't ship it in that condition. But it's usable. It's usable, and I've been using it. So if you're a nightly user, that's kind of that's kind of the name of the game. You get a chance to try stuff out. If you'd like, there's some flags you can try. There's probably going to be like more noise about this whenever more bugs have been fixed and we're ready to sort of like maybe turn it on by default in nightly or something.
Whoa, split view? Oh, great job, everyone who worked on that.
What's another thing the skull might say?
My splitting tabs? More like splitting my sides because I'm laughing so much about how good this feature is.
Good joke, Skull. All right, let's keep moving. So that's split view. What did I want to work on today? So there is something that... So I've been working and focusing on the new tab team recently. The new tab team is the team that works on this surface. And if you're not familiar with it, or if you've not used it in a while, maybe you have it off by default, chances are you don't know. Like, it has been evolving. Now, the look and feel of it by default has not changed much. Like, let me pull up the release instance of Firefox for a second here. Like now we've got the 4 columns by default, and we've got the weather. Those were the biggest changes, followed by like the ability to set wallpapers. Those are probably some of the biggest changes, but more changes are coming. In the United States, for example, you've got these like sections that allow you to sort of like get a sense, like you can get categories of stories that you might be interested in, and you can choose which ones you're actually interested in. If you're like for myself, I've chosen I'm interested in science and politics and tech, so it will pin those topics to the top, and that helps to sort of like tune it a little bit to my interests. And you can also like follow topics. Like some of this is off by default. We're slow rolling it, but one of the things that we got some very strong user feedback from user research is that people don't find the stories relevant. They want to be able to see things that interest them, and that's not going to be the same across a wide population. So you want to allow people to like pick and choose what they're interested in, and this is the start of that. Being able to sort of like pick and choose, and or hide them completely. Some people don't want the stories at all, and you can always shut them off. You can turn them off. So that's interesting. One of the things that we've also been doing is like the search input. I don't know if you've ever tried searching from the new tab page, but if you like focus in here and then start typing like hamsters, my keyboard focus just jumped right up to the URL bar. And this is because of a sort of a project back in 2017, 2018. It's like a long time ago, to try and get users comfortable with the idea that you can search from the URL bar. Because back then, by default, I think we had the split URL bar search input. And we wanted users to be aware that, like, hey, you can actually search from the URL bar. And in fact, the goal was to make the URL bar kind of like the command line interface to the browser. Like, it's not just where you put addresses. You can put search queries. You can type in things like take screenshot, and then like, suddenly this option would show up to like, hey, I can offer to like take a screenshot of the page, like that sort of thing. Those are called quick actions. And so this search input down here hasn't really done much, or changed much since it was put in. And the whole like redirecting behavior, it's kind of old. Like it's a little long in the tooth, and I think we're ready now to try something better. One of the things that we're thinking of doing is actually making the search input here what's called multi-context supporting, so that it can actually live inside of the new tab page and execute in the same way inside of the new tab page. And so there's the search team is working on making the URL bar and the drop down and all of the mechanism that powers it, because it's very sophisticated. They're working on making it so that it can operate inside of the privileged about content process down here. But one thing that's kind of awkward is that the new tab page imports this component, which is owned by the search team. It's called the content search UI. Where is it? Content search? Content search. Yeah, here's the content search UI. They own this, but we on the new tab team like manually bring it in. We manually import it. We manually import it here, and then we manually insert it into the page. And I think the way we do that is what do we do? Content search UI. I just have to remember how this works. The reason I'm not doing that, like, just hang on a second. The whole reason that we do this, yeah, this isn't what's going to be running inside of the content area. This one does, and I think it accepts an input element. Okay, and I think we construct this thing inside of search.jsx, which uses, yeah, basically this input here. We hard code in this input, and then we hard code calling into this constructor, which is available to us because of the script that we imported. And then we like set this global on the window. It's all very awkward. And one of the things that we'd like to do is to make it so that the search team can update this component, or just swap it out completely actually, with the new multi-context address bar without having to touch any of the new tab code. And that is a pattern that we're trying to sort of evolve and expand upon in the new tab code, is to like carve out chunks of it to delegate to other teams, to say like, we don't want to have you work on the new tab code. If you're the search team, we're going to give you this region. We're going to give you, did you want to dip in? Did you want to...
No.
So this is my wife Emily. She is dressed as a frog for Halloween. I don't know. Oh, she's green, so it's probably not coming across. But there she is. Just a tea delivery. Just waved. The green probably didn't. She was very transparent. But there you go. She's dressed up for work as a frog. Anyways, that was great. Thank you for the tea. And so yeah, we want to make it so that the search team doesn't have to touch any of the JSX. They don't have to talk to the new tab team. They can just like update their stuff, and it will just kind of get inserted. Now, for the most, like that behavior is mostly true today. Like the content search UI, they can change it on their side, and that will take place immediately. But what if they changed like the requirements of the DOM? Like the DOM node that it attaches to, then they'd have to like update search.jsx to be like, okay, well, we have to change this input to have it like a different class or a different ref or what. Like there's all kinds of things that have to happen in here, and that's very awkward. And so one of what we're trying to do is to make it completely decoupled. And I want to kind of like think through a design that's been going through my head on how we can do that. The obvious solution, I think, is to have some kind of registry so that the search team can just like register their component, their UI component, and then the new tab team or the new tab code reads from that registry and says like, oh, there's a thing here. Now there's an added complication, which is that the new tab code is now kind of decoupled from the trains to some extent, in that it is an extension that ships built in with the browser and can update out of band from the rest of the browser. So whatever we do has to be what's called train hop compatible. It has to be, we want to make sure that this registry is going to be stable, and that the new tab code doesn't, if it changes, it's going to be talking to something stable. And if the search, like, we want them to be decoupled, basically. You want a third sort of like entity here. If you've got the new tab code, which fluctuates, and the search code, which fluctuates, you need something that's stable for them to talk to, a stable channel. That's the decoupling bits and thing, to keep the changes from one from affecting changes in the other. Oh, that's interesting. Sorry, I just got an email about some crash stuff, and things are improving. That's good. Sorry, I'm too easily distracted. So I want to think through how that works. And this is all part of this pattern, like I said, of wanting to carve out more of this new tab for other teams to own. Like, one thing that we're thinking of for down the line is, wouldn't it be great if web extensions could insert things into the new tab page? And so maybe we can like carve out a section for the web extensions team to own. There is a spammer in the channel. Feel free to just send that person right out the door. Just show them the door. If you've got mod powers, if you're on the call, please let them have it. No restraint. Okay, so what am I thinking in terms of design here? Well, we can start taking some notes. Just kind of testing a punch out of a hole for new tab. That's one of the ways we're thinking about this, is like hole punching and like giving ownership to those holes to other teams. Another there are elements of the new tab team calling this Project Expo, where Expo means like exposition, and like imagine new tab is like this exposition hall, and you can have different stalls and different vendors owning stalls within the exposition, and they can like craft them to look right, but they also have to play by the rules of the exposition, that kind of thing. So I'm just sort of thinking through the design here of how this might work. Sorry, someone is asking me a question. Someone has asked me for... Okay, I'm going to have to look at that later. So the first thing I wanted to think about was the stable registry that both these external components and new tab talk to. And instead of inventing something, the first thing that came to mind is actually a pre-existing kind of like low-level registry that we have called the category manager. The category manager is a very old school XP-COM component whose job is to basically be a process global key value store. And, you as a consumer can iterate, like we can add category entries, and we can iterate category entries. So for example, we might have a category for new tab components, and then search can add one to that category, add an item to that particular category, and then we as new tab can then iterate the new tab components and pull the information in. Sorry, I'm gonna have to I'll be able to answer this after 2:30. Okay, so remind me to answer this. Remind me about this in 1 hour. Okay. So this is my first instinct. And we get a lot for free here. We already use the category manager in a bunch of different places. It's unlikely that native code would ever need to use the category manager, but it could. A native code could register a component this way, which is nice. And it's just well tested. It's battle tested. This thing's been around since, I think, at 2010, long earlier than that. I think it's been around since like before I started working for Mozilla. So it's performance tested. It's security tested. It is battle tested. It's like this thing is ready to go. Rather than building up our own sort of like key value store thing and worrying about how it stores information, where it stores it, etc., etc. And it is a runtime key value store. So I'm actually curious about, like, I'll bet you the category manager is just using a hash table under the hood, right? Or is it an array? It's just an array. Category enumerator, that's the category enumerator. Category manager, category nodes, get leaf. So it's some kind of tree structure. Let's see. Collect reports, size of, category notification, category manager. So add category entry will do this. What it will do is it'll create a category node, and then it will insert it into a table. And a table is a hash table. So it's a hash table. And I don't want to have to recreate all of this. Maybe we do it, we just reuse what's already there, which is already ready to go, and it's already thread safe. Like, that's why reinvent the wheel? So what would this look like? Well, let's think. What I'm thinking is that the search component, what we call the handoff search component, would do what? The search component, I think the search team, do they have components.conf? No. Do they use the category manager at all? Search. Not really. Stop build. Well, what we can do is we can have it be, in this case, statically built, or like statically registered, because there's a pattern inside of the components manifest files where you can add items to the category manager statically during build time. Or actually, I don't think it's during build time. I do think it's during runtime that these manifests are parsed, but this is a nice way of making it so that you don't have to like check around to see all of the places that, in this particular case, register themselves to do things at startup. They're all kind of like in one spot. So we might want to do something similar for search, where like the search team can have a components, like search components.conf has a search components.conf, or maybe just components.conf, or components.manifest. That's what it is. Manifest manifest places components.manifest category here, components.manifest browser components services sync components.manifest. Yeah. Resource aliases. Okay. So let's suppose telemetry startup. We have something called like search components .manifest, and it would be of the form category, then the name of the category. So it would be something like category then the name of the category would be like browser, new tab, UI component, something like that. And then the name of a script. So in this case, it would be like content search UI.js. Maybe like Chrome browser content search component, new tab component.js, and then we can also supply the or maybe just content search is fine. Content search.js, content search UI, and then critically the name of an object inside of here that describes the component. So in content search UI, maybe it'd be content search UI controller well, maybe we don't actually want to load this in the parent, so maybe it's something more like content search UI component. So maybe it's back to this new tab component sys.mjs. Resource. What do they use for search? Search. Content search UI new tab component. Search one-offs. Search one-offs.sys.mjs. What namespace are these? Browser components. Search. So you'd use like Moz source. Browser components. Search. And then the name of the object to that describes the component. So in the case of these like startups, it's like you're exposing UI concert UI new tab component. We'll call this thing it's like an object that's going to describe it, but it's not a description. A description is usually just text, so it'll be like a search UI component dot what? Definition. Let's use that for now. Definition. Okay, so you'd have that. And then inside of content search UI new tab component .sys.mjs, you'd have something like content search UI new tab component. Definition. It'd be an object, and it would be like scripts, style sheets, markup, and then like type. This case would be like type search, and there can really only be one. Thank you, Smurf D. Good to be back. And so this would be like, hey, we need to load content search UI.js. Hey, we need to load content search UI.css. And then the last part is the markup. And the markup so this thing would we would need to read in from some, so each browser tab will also get like a copy of the registry or a copy of this and be able to interpret it. To do the script insertion, style sheet insertion, then the markup insertion. And here we would render the markup. Now there's logic in here. On search handoff drop, on search handoff paste, on input mount handoff. What do these do? Input, on search mount. So you also have to be able to like wire up event handlers. It's almost like a bootstrap script. That needs to be run. To like make use of the markup, presuming that the scripts and the style sheets are in there. Maybe bootstrap script is not the right term. Maybe init script. Let's just, that's our straw man for now. And then, how do I escape this? Help me out. How do I get out of this block? I did it before. Help. Okay. And then you need something that reads from the category manager on initialization. But I think we can we also listen for changes on the category manager? Let's see. Can we subscribe to changes? Go to the definition. So is there like a notify observers, category notification, topic. So who does this and what do they do? So notify observers. Who calls that? Category entry removed, category entry added. So this topic is notified when entry is added to a category in the category manager. The subject of the notification will be the name of the added entry, and the data will be the name of the category. The notification will occur on the main thread, or an entry is removed. So we'll need to observe these things so that in case also adds observers for XPCOM category added and category removed. And on initialization, or when the category in question changes, that's new tab, browser, new tab UI component changes, we reconstruct the list of components I presume that we're not doing anything special with the cross process. Like it one of these lives in the parent, and presumably it's possible for the category manager to live in the child, but we don't like keep them up to date between them. I'm gonna assume that's true, but let me just double check. Let's open up the debugger here, multi-process debugger, and let's go to the console and choose the privileged about process versus category. Catman, get category entry. Or enumerate category. Category name is Catman Listener Manager. Let's say XPCOM, or we already have something here. Something called Category Manager Listener, which is very handy. We might want something similar. So like this is already built out, and it's already got the observer. Cache listeners. This already does the caching. This already does the loading. That's very nice. That's very nice. We can reuse this. So potentially reuse we use what, Catman Listener? What? Catman Listener Manager, which does the above, but needs, but we need to recompute categories on notifications. Maybe this thing can like emit an event or something. Okay. So what's the next thing I'm thinking of? Like, oh yeah, serialization. What was I doing this for? I need to figure out the serialization thing. So Catman Listener Manager, get listeners, category name, call modules from category. So there is going to be one called category name. That's what I'm looking for. Category name. Browser idle startup. And or maybe enumerate category. Has more elements? True. Oh, entries. Get next. What is that thing? Query interface, CI/SI category entry, data. Huh! This is in the content process. Type. That's interesting. That's interesting. So it's available in the content process. Because like if I do the same thing in the parent process, let's go ahead and switch context there. There it is. How does that work? It's possible that browser components dot manifest. It's possible that this is being executed and parsed for each process. That's interesting. Let me write that down. Interestingly, the category manager executes the .manifest files. The category manager has its entries populated from manifest files for each process, meaning that we get build time registration for free in the privileged about content process. What we wouldn't get is dynamic registration and unregistration. And I think we do want that, especially if the future thinking is that web extensions will be able to do this, then this is like web extensions need to be able to do this dynamically at runtime. We don't require a restart. And so I don't think we can take advantage of that, unfortunately. So instead, what we need to do is have the backend new tab code iterate the relevant categories. Cat manager, what's it called? Cat listener manager. It loads it, and then it calls the method. Returns the function. Fetch and parse category manager. For that given category name, we'll use cache listeners. It removes any null entries. So it creates cache listeners category name. Caches the results. This will clear it out. But what this is doing is it's actually executing each one. And what we want to do is to sort of like get the return value from each one. And I think get listeners. Call modules from category. Invoke all category manager consumers of given JS consumer. For the listener, it will get the listener. Oh, that's interesting. It'll get the listener. So what we get back is, so maybe instead this should be a function, not an object. It should be a function up here. So we can take advantage. Returns. Because then we can still take advantage of cat manager listener. Because I think what we'll get then is the ability to, instead of just calling it, we can like do a variation of call modules from category. Because we want the return value. This thing just does it, throws it away. We want to be able to get the return values. So maybe we can actually have call modules we have a variant of this that gives us back our return values. I need to talk to Heise about that. Iterate the relevant categories and get the return values for each category, for each item in the category, entry, and then to sort them by type. This will then create a structure which can be just thinking. This will create a structure which can be sent down in the state object that each new tab receives. A component, a class or component will be responsible for parsing that structure and holding it. It's kind of silly that Is there something that lets us have shared memory? Shared memory between tabs. This was from 4 years ago. States are session based. You can use local storage. I want like a shared broadcast channel API. Broadcast channel. Post a message. Shared worker. Someone else wanted to say shared access to the worker. Local storage. Session storage. Because it just seems silly for each one to have the same copy. But that's kind of the existing problem with the new tab state object. And maybe that's not something we should try and solve here. It's annoying, but it's not a game ender. Per page. Yes, it's awkward that each instance of new tab has one of these, but that's already a problem with the state object. And then each React component, in this particular case, the search.jsx component will get the definition for the lone search item in the registry. When it finds it, it will insert the script and style sheet elements. It will insert the markup when rendering. It will then run the init script. Insert the markup when running. It will run the init script. Insert the init script. And then what's the end result? So search.jsx, I think a lot of this will kind of go away. Like a lot of these like handoff component stuff, like all of this stuff. Handle event. Also track search events with our own telemetry. Handle event. Add event listener. Content search client. On input mount. Ref on input mount. As soon as it shows up, we'll add an event listener content search client, and we handle event detail type search content search client, new custom event type send message, get engine. Is there one that's like search? This one. When we perform a search, which only occurs if handoff doesn't exist. So I wonder if part of the first job here So I need to start. This is all great. I need to start an engineering design document to start shopping around with these ideas. At least show Heiss and Scott, but probably a bunch of others as well. Heiss knows about the category manager and the Catman listener manager, and Scott knows NewTab probably better than anyone. Has been around the block. And then file a bug to get rid of non-handoff behavior. To simplify JSX, search.jsx and content search UI. And then where's search.jsx again? So what this thing would do is it would ask the component that's in the tab, hey, what's in the registry for search? Initialize the search thing by inserting its script and style sheet, and then give me the markup, and then call the script. And it would do that in the render function, I think. Because it would get back the markup. Oh, the markup. The markup, what? Is that going to be a fragment of HTML? It might be. And then what? We just insert that string? Use that string? It's kind of awkward. But not the worst thing we've ever done, but it's a little awkward. Insert that string in here as HTML. It's like inner HTML. Don't like that. Don't like that. Like my spider senses are tingling. My spidey senses are tingling. But basically, you want to embed someone else's markup into your own markup. I don't want to use an iframe. But we trust, in this case, we trust the search team is trusted. If this was a web extension, the web extension team is trusted, but the third-party extensions are not trusted, and we need to do some special sandboxing there. Especially because they'd probably be running inside of sandbox iframe running inside of the web extension process. Thinking. In a way, it's kind of nice if it was an iframe. Because then inside of the iframe, you construct the scripts, the style sheets, and the markup. The problem then, though, is there are certain cases that we're thinking of where search might need to extend outside of its iframe, of its rectangle, like for its drop down and stuff. That doesn't work. What is? Oh, whoops, sorry, no, hang on. MDN sanitize API. Specified elements are allowed and should be removed the inserting strings of HTML into an element or shadow root. Now, certainly inserting all of this stuff into a shadow root makes sense. Because you want these things to be isolated from one another. You want encapsulation. And maybe the shadow root is the right idea. So like from the perspective of new tab, what you get is just this like node. It's got the name like search, and there's like a bunch of stuff inside it. The shadow root has the style sheet. We would need to execute the script for it. Got sanitizer and nightly. That's nice. There it is. Sanitizer. That's cool. So that's an idea. In the case of the search team, I can imagine that the search input, do they use lit element at all in the search? Browser components search. Moz lit element. No, they don't. How about URL bar? No. They have the input is, I think, manually constructed. It's very sophisticated. It is manually constructed. It's also URL bar input. What is this? Is it a class? New URL bar input. The URL bar. ID equals URL bar inside of Navigator Toolbox. So they have like a static structure here. I mean, really, this doesn't need... What this should be, I mean, script style sheet markup, could this be a sub, not an iframe, but like somehow a sub document, like a document fragment. Because really, what, instead of doing it like when you reach that point in search, like the fact that it's all kind of bound together for this search component is useful in the definition point. But whenever you're the new tab page, what you want to do at the very beginning is load everything you need in order to paint the first frame, and then everything else can happen right after. And so scripts, we can know of and load all of the individual scripts separately. style sheets as well. Excuse me. It does feel helpful to sort of like scope the style sheet with the markup. Like maybe there's a rule that the markup is inserted inside of a lit element, inside of Shadow DOM, and so is the style sheet. And the script's job is to define Yeah, maybe what this should be is like the description of an element, like tag name, search input, Moz, search input, and then attributes, attrs, and that's what's going to get inserted. So it's not a string. There's a structure to it. And that this thing must have instead of style sheets, if you're going to style it, this thing must have some Shadow DOM stuff. And then the style sheets are brought into it, so that the style sheets don't affect the entire page. That's good and that's important. So we can scope it properly. And then you don't really need an init script either, because the onConnected callback of this web component, that's your init script right there. So really what you need is like dependencies and script that defines Moz search input, and then Moz search input. I think I like that. That's simpler. It also does a lot more to delegate. We get some nice encapsulation here. What does the new tab team... The new tab team only really just needs to know this. So this could actually be a constant. Like we should probably have something that's like new tab UI component. New tab UI component dot type search. Content search, new tab UI component. What this also means is that the widget itself can be tested independently. You as the writer of this component just need to write a Moz search input, list your dependencies and script here, and have your default attrs defined here as well. I kind of like that. I kind of like that a lot. Okay. That's good. That was actually very, very helpful. See, I don't know how much engineering design, or thinking... What am I doing here? We haven't actually written any code. We have not written a single line of code this entire episode beyond what's in this note. But thinking through it this way is so helpful, rather than kind of like thinking about it in a vacuum with like kind of like a diagram, but thinking about it from the perspective of the search team, and then switching perspectives to the new tab team and thinking about what the code would actually look like. This is a really, really useful starting point. This also forced me to, run into the Catman Listener Manager. which turns out does a lot of what I need it to do. I might need to modify it a little bit, but it does a lot of the caching. It does a lot of the cache and validation that I need it to do. And I also realize that there's some initial simplification I can do to make some of this easier. So that's good. And now I have a sense of the pieces. So the pieces are, you need a thing inside of the, alongside the category manager entry and the Catman listener manager, you need something inside of the back end of the new tab code that's going to iterate the UI component category and then sort it properly and produce a structure that is then added to the state object that goes down to each new tab. And then you need something inside of the new tab content area to consume that state object and act as the in-content registry that when we render the search.jsx thing can say like, hey, give me whatever you've got for search. And it will say like, oh, load these, insert this tag. Insert this tag. I presume it's possible. Maybe someone here who knows React better than I do. I presume it's possible to dynamically construct an element here. Like to is that a like a pattern? I can see like this pattern of like interpolation. Can you do something like dynamic element selection React JSX? Okay, no, I need like from string. Const tag equals tag name. So this is it. Tag. You can just do this. That is valid JSX apparently. So I could just do like const Apparently this is true. I don't know if this is true. This is what the AI is telling me. But maybe we can have like a React component whose job it is to know like component category search. Oh, Smurf D found something. Methods. One way to go is to create a method for each component. Allows us to programmatically generate component names without encountering issues with JSX. Oh, okay. A more elegant solution. Type is example. Component name equals... oh, yeah. That's fine. Right, because this is all going to be built anyways. At build time. Well, no, that's not true. Oh, that's interesting. How is the JSX going to... what is this going to be compiled to? What does this get compiled to whenever... if this is user supplied? If this is like not statically defined. JSX playground. let const tag name prompt choose chew, and then tag name hi tag name. So I'm going to do h2. That worked. But how did that work? What would the if that is being determined at runtime, what is the JS that is being generated? Can I view the source? React. How do I view the source? JSX. I want to see like what the compiled JS would be. What is this thing? JavaScript, JS. Oh, I'm inside some kind of like VS Code thing. That's kind of wild. I might just have to write it and see what the compiler says, what the JSX compiler outputs. Like, I'm very curious. What would that output? Because in all of these cases, the JSX compiler knows statically what the components are. So is it inlining them? Or is it doing like the smart thing and like doing dynamic selection? Can't you just view the output in my browser DevTools? What I would get in that case is what was ultimately rendered, which I know it was using an H2 there. What I need to know is what the JSX compiler thought prior to the JavaScript executing, if that makes any sense. Okay, I'll have to think about that. So we'll go, if I insert the script style sheet. No, it doesn't insert the script. Insert the script and insert a web component. Could be React, could be Lit, could be raw, vanilla. That is responsible for adding style sheet dependencies within its shadow DOM or via CSS modules, which currently are being worked on. Okay, I need to keep thinking this through, but I've in my head, I feel like I'm starting to make some headway here. I hope that was interesting. You're kind of watching the sort of the primordial step of a project, thinking through the architecture, and this is very like scratch on a notepad kind of stuff. I'm just doing it in front of a bunch of people, and a lot of this might end up getting like I'm gonna get feedback from some of my colleagues, and it might get blown completely apart. That's okay. This is the cheapest time to do that. The most expensive time is when you've already written it or shipped it. That's the worst time to realize that there was a huge mistake. So this is a great time when an idea is just kind of like this misty, ephemeral thing. If I can describe it just so, before I've written a single line of code, I can shop it around, and we can find defects in the idea and things I've missed, and then refine it and change it. And this is the cheapest time to do that. Well, thanks for watching episode 418. I hope that was spooky yet interesting, everybody. Bat. Yeah, let me know what you thought. There's a link here at the end of the agenda to rate this episode. I'll just drop that in the chat. Link to rate this episode. Yeah. Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know if you try split view. I'm very curious to hear what your thoughts are there. I can try and like again withhold like major judgment until like it's ready for testing. Right, it's very very early. The team is moving quickly, but it's like it's still off by default. And so there's going to be, like vertical tabs, there's going to be a lot of sort of like polishing and smoothing on it before we're ready to make it available, generally speaking. But if you're willing to look past some of those deficiencies, give it a shot and maybe let me know what you thought, and I can try passing it along to the relevant people. Eventually, I'm sure there'll be like a Mozilla Connect post where everyone can supply feedback. But if you want to give early feedback, I can try and pass it along. But yeah, let me know what you thought of the episode. You can rate the episode here, and hopefully, unless something surprising happens, we'll be back next week with episode 419. So with that, have yourselves a great week, everybody. Happy Halloween if you celebrate it. I'll see you in November. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
The joy of coding.
See ya.